What is up, everybody? In today's insane video, I'm going to be showing y'all this Coleman lantern. But before we get into this, I would like to let you know I wasn't really planning on making this video. What I was planning on making is making a video about my 16mm sound film projector. But that video kind of fell through because the capacitors I needed to recap it didn't get here yet. And even if I had those, it's germanium circuitry from the 60s. So I don't even know if it would even work with the new capacitors. And it's also in pieces, and even if it was put together and working, I don't have any films for that. So that video is obviously going to be postponed a while. So instead of making that video, today I'm making this video. So let's get right into that. Another thing I would like to point out is that unlike my last video, in this video I've actually turned on the stabilization inside my GoPro. The reason is I forgot to do that in my last video, and the entire video looked like it was filmed during an earthquake. So I'm sorry about that, but this time I've actually remembered to turn on the stabilization so you won't get an earthquake cam. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get into what this video is about. This Coleman lantern. Now the reason I decided to make this video isn't just any Coleman lantern. It is the old gas mantle style of Coleman lanterns. And this one isn't the more modern gas mantle style, like the ones with the propane cylinders. This one uses gas. Another interesting thing is this one's really old. It's like from 1966. The reason I know this is on the bottom of the gas tank, also called the fount on these old lanterns, there's a date code. And on one side, there's a number that's the month, and on the other side, there's a number that's the date. On mine, it has 12 and 66, which means this lantern was manufactured in the 12th month of 1966. However, I would also like to point out I'm not 100% sure on that, because while the fount was made during that time, the lantern model 228F, that model number, I saw like on a YouTube video that apparently they started making that model number of lantern in 1970. So I don't know if this is the fount that's actually supposed to go with this lantern, or if this is another part, or if Coleman was just using old founts that they had laying around for their new lanterns in 1970s. Or if the info I saw on YouTube is actually wrong and they were producing it earlier. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure on when this was made, but it's probably from 1966. And I know at least the fount is from 1966, which is what the gas tanks are called on these Coleman lanterns. Now, this is the old style lantern with a separate knob and what's known as the pricker or the poker. What this does is it pushes a needle up and down in the hole that the gas goes through so that the gas doesn't like have carbon buildup and not go through the little hole. Also, that tube in there is called the generator, and it has several components inside. And the generator has a limited lifespan, which is why it's designed to be replaced. But my generator really needs to be replaced. It's like really old and has a lot of hours on it. But I haven't got around to doing that yet because I don't have a spare one. I would have to order that. So this lantern doesn't start how it's supposed to. These are supposed to start by turning this around, then opening this 1/4 of a turn, and then lighting it with either matches or the sparker. But that doesn't work. The generator has so many hours on it that it doesn't start how it's supposed to. Once it's running, it's fine, but it doesn't start very easily. So what you have to do is open it up all of the way, light it, and just sort of wait for the fire to heat up the generator, and then it will start working eventually, which isn't ideal, but I'll get around to changing the generator eventually. But considering how this is not starting the way it's supposed to, and the fact that I don't have 3 arms, I'm gonna go ahead and start this off camera and then come back to you, because there's a million other videos online of Coleman lantern startups. So if you really wanted to, you could see one of those other videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it off camera. This is the lantern running. Now, before I leave, I want to touch on a few things. First of all, something I don't see mentioned in other videos is this pump. Now, everyone knows about how you pump this up, yada yada, whatever. You can see that in many other videos if you're interested. But what people don't talk about is this. This is an oiling hole. And what it's designed for is to put oil in it, because the pump cup that's inside this pump is leather, which means you need to have oil in there in order for it to not dry rot. So I always put a lot of oil. You can use whatever oil. I use motor oil, but you got to make sure you have some kind of oil in there in order to keep the leather cup from dry rotting, and make sure it gets a good seal, and to make sure it doesn't wear out early. So I just wanted to point that out real quick, because it's something people in other videos don't mention, even though it's pretty important. Also, you might be wondering what type of fuel this uses. Well, it uses gasoline, but also white gas. It's kind of weird. Now, these old lanterns are supposed to run on something called white gas, but you can totally run them on gasoline. Although it's not really designed for it, so if you have one of these lanterns, do your own research and decide for yourself if you want to run gasoline or white gas in it. I run it on gasoline, but a lot of people will only run theirs on white gas. So do your own research if you have one of these old lanterns and decide for yourself which fuel you want to run it on. Also, there are some more modern lanterns called dual fuel lanterns that will totally run on gasoline, as in they're designed to run on regular unleaded gasoline. So yeah, there's that. Also, there are some Coleman and other mantle type lanterns that run on kerosene. Now, these lanterns are pretty rare in America, but they're everywhere in other countries like Australia. And those lanterns have a cup next to the generator that you fill with alcohol in order to preheat the generator before you start, because kerosene is a lot less volatile than gasoline. Also, there are some kerosene lanterns, especially from Australia, that have a kerosene blowtorch built into the fount of the lantern, which is aimed at the generator. So you can light the blowtorch and heat up the generator, and in like 30 seconds you can start the lantern and then turn off the blowtorch. However, those style of lanterns and just kerosene mantle lanterns in general are very rare in America. So yeah, basically that's the end of the video. If you want to subscribe, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. But if you don't feel like subscribing yet, please feel free to check out another one of my videos that our AI overlords say you will like. And with that out of the way, bye.